Monday, Thursday, I go to work.
Right.
Labor Day must be here.
So we'll do here. We'll do September the 9th.
Sounds right. If that's the Monday, Thursday, right? Labor Day's on that Monday. We won't, no classes that week. The following week, we start that Monday. The first year class starts that Monday.
Mondays, that's Sunday, that's Mondays. That's the Tuesday, there'll be no class there.
The same week or the following?
Same, yeah, same
We'll
week.
do the 9th, September the 9th.
So that Monday night class is the first year class. We'll start on Monday. And then the Thursday night class is that Thursday, same week, that Thursday. So. All right, I got 6:32. I'll go ahead and get started. Just a few cleanup notes. We have one more class after tonight, which is next Monday, I mean, sorry. Next Monday. And next Monday's the makeup class for the class we missed when I was traveling. So we've got that one makeup class and it'll be next Monday. So we got tonight and then next Monday. And that ends the summer session. Can you believe it? The fall semester will start, for those of you interested in taking the Kingdom Culture class. That class will start the Monday holiday. The following Monday will start the Monday night class, which is the Kingdom Culture class. That same week on Thursday will be the discipleship class. So we'll start that class on that Thursday. So for those interested, who wants to give a commercial for the Monday night class? Anybody? Lois Lane, talk about Monday night real quick. See, that's what happens when you miss 3 weeks in a row. You get put on the spot.
I just been school.
Don't you just love us?
I love Pastor Bill. If you have hang-ups of any kind of your walk with the Lord in any way, if you don't feel like you're worthy, if you don't feel like you can do it, if you don't see yourself the way God sees you, then that's a class you need to take. Because what you learn is seeing yourself through God's eyes.
Wow.
Thursday night.
That's the best advertising
Pretty
you
good.
can get.
Pretty
Right?
For being put on the spot, it's pretty good. Thursday night. Anybody want to do Thursday
She gets an
night?
A. Make
She
sure
does.
you give her A.
A plus. I'll give her an
Is Thursday night the one that I'll be taking because I already did the
A. Yes,
first one?
that's correct. You'll be
Okay, because
taking-
it wasn't called discipleship before.
Well, it's
Okay.
called, it's a
That's it.
discipleship class. Kingdom Lifestyle.
Yeah.
The title of the class is Kingdom Lifestyle.
Part one or part two?
No, that
That
class is.
class never starts.
Never
Just
stops.
So you
continuing.
just get in when you get in.
When we get to be 100, we'll still be taking it.
Right. Yeah, probably.
Just have to tell them to speak up.
Well, here
We
it
have perfect
There
hearing.
you go.
Let's jump in. Let's talk about Thursday night.
You start to realize, David, too, it's like every second of the day is a resetting of how you think about yourself, how you think about your circumstances, how you think about events that take place in your life, how you think about people, whether you agree with them or not. I think about everything is frank. It's an incredible journey. I gotta tell you.
So that's the Thursday night. That's
Can I dovetail off what Eric just
Yeah,
said?
man.
And for me, and I think for a lot of people in there, you get done with the first class and you're like, we talk about in the first class, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And in the second class, or that continuation of the second class, no matter where you jump in, that why becomes more and more and more clear to you as the class goes on, whether we're talking about faith, ego, discipleship, because all those things go together and they form your why. Everybody's why is different,
Yeah.
but we have to form our why, because otherwise we'll jump off the path and not continue with the journey if we don't have a reason to.
Pastor Linda, you've been in this class really from the beginning, right? I mean, from the beginning.
Yeah.
To give a little perspective, you know, of the really the last 11 years, if you believe that or not. We've been teaching that class for 11 years. So just from the
It's
beginning.
well, my start was beginning where I started to see that I was valuable and who I really am, not what my past has been or what people might say, but who Papa says I am. And then as you continue on with, it's not how you think about things or what the facts are, it's really what the truth is.
Yeah, there you go.
That was very well said.
Yeah, so that Thursday night class is really gritty and intense. I mean, you guys have been through first year. We're pretty gritty and intense in first year. But that Thursday night class is really very, very gritty, very intense. So it's just pretty good. That's the class. I think it's kind of interesting. We spent 13 weeks talking about ego. So function of ego, it's how ego works.
So
So
what's the function of ego?
it's not that's Thursday night class, not in this night. Not in this night.
So you just said what it was.
That was Thursday night class. I'm just giving an example. Here you go. So
Yeah, that's disgusting.
So where we are, we stopped with the slide. For this, and we're gonna start with this slide tonight. And we're gonna kind of keep things that you don't see and how important it is to really grasp an understanding that we have such a promise that if we speak the things we see in the spirit, we can have them. I think the promise of the word is that every word that comes out of our mouth will produce life or death. There's a harvest in those words. The challenge we have is speaking what we see, and I think it's the change in our view, and that really is the challenge. And so we've really spent, you know, the last 4 weeks kind of pressing on that really hard, especially pressing on, you know, last week we talked a lot about the seed and what you do once you put the seed in the ground. There's that germination period. And there's a period that the seed that you've sown has to, it has to die and then it has to germinate before it produces the harvest. And our challenge in that is sort of twofold. One is we got to resist the temptation to dig the seed up to look at it, right? We put the seed in the ground, it dies. We've got to really resist the temptation to dig the seed up. The second part of that is how do we manage that space of uncertainty where we don't see anything, right? And that to me is the biggest challenge. I mean, I'm pretty good at putting the seed in the ground and not wanting to dig it up and look at it. But then it's after you've spoken it, after you've sown the seed, after you see it in the spirit, and you know what it is that God has shown you, you declare and decree it, you speak it, then it goes into the ground. There's this period, there's this wait period. I mean, it doesn't produce instantaneous fruit. There's a period that you have to wait through the uncertainty of, is this really going to work? I'm going to get the answer. And so it really is, I think, why Jesus gave the challenge, when I return, will I find this type of faith, this faith that's persistent, right? Because that, remember, it came after the parable of the widow who was persistent with the judge. And the judge said, wow, you've been really persistent in this. And then Jesus said, well, when I return, will I find this type of persistent faith, right? And so there's a persistent nature of pressing through uncertainty, right? There is a period, listen, I'm telling you, there's a blackout period, right? It's going to be there, right? You're going to see it, you're going to know it, right? When you go to the Lord, when you go in the Spirit through the power of revelation, reveals to you the answer, right? And you declare and decree that answer, there is going to be a blackout period. Why? Why is that? It's not because God's punishing you. It's not because all of these things that we think. It's because of the process. It's the process of seed and germination and harvest. It's just process, right? And we don't like process for whatever reason. Because it hurts, it's hard, it's difficult, and a lot of uncertainty. It requires faith. It requires trust, it requires relationship, it requires persistence. And we sort of talked a little bit about last week, once you sow the seed, how you have to tend the seed. You gotta get the weeds out of the garden, you gotta water it, all these things that we have to do in order for the seed really then to produce the abundance of the harvest that we know that's in the seed, right? The harvest is in the seed, right? Everybody knows that. The harvest is in the seed. So when you see the answer, when you get the answer in the spirit, the harvest of the answer is in the seed. And so I'll go back and I'll say this continually over and over again. If you want to change your harvest, change your seed. Right? It really is about changing your seed. So there's this incredible story in the New Testament. I love it. I love the story of Lazarus being raised from the dead. I mean, it's just to me, it's a funny story because there's a lot of funny stuff in it. And what's interesting to me is in this story, this is a lesson of what I've just described. Jesus used this story, this event. This was an event. This happened. Okay, this is an actual event that happened. And Jesus uses this event to teach the boys this lesson. And if you read this story carefully and you understand what's going on, you can see everything we've been talking about in the last 4 weeks in the story. It's really kind of incredible, right? So just to kind of kick this off a little bit, Lazarus, the name Lazarus in the Greek, right? When you study the name and you break the name down, his name literally means God has helped. God has helped. What's interesting about his name is that the has helped part of it, when you look at the verb, it is in the present perfect tense. Now, what is the present perfect tense?
No.
Glad you asked the question. So the present perfect tense means this: the action has occurred in the past and continues into the present time. That's what his name means.
Wow.
His name means that God has taken care of this in a certain time, and the answer to that continues through until the time. That's what his name means. Right? So in the name Lazarus, that contains all 4 weeks that we've been talking about, just in his name. It's pretty amazing, right? And so we see that in the name. There's also another interesting term, Bethany. So remember, Lazarus was in Bethany. Bethany means, it's got two things, which I think is really interesting. So there are two meanings to the word Bethany. The first meaning is house of now. The house of now. So Lazarus, where God has helped, is in a city named the house of now. You think that's good? How about this one? It also means house of the answer.
Wow.
So the answer now is in the past perfect tense of Lazarus, God has helped. That's this class. That's 4 weeks. We've been talking about 4 weeks. Everything in those 4 weeks is contained in the name Lazarus and in the name Bethany. Every bit of it. It's right there. So what's interesting is there's another meaning. There's a pejorative meaning of the term Bethany too. And the pejorative meaning of Bethany means house of poverty or house of misery. So listen to this. So when you look at this word in the Hebrew and you understand what it's saying, this is what's going on in this word. The house of the Father who has the realm of authority has the answer now for the poverty and misery of death.
Say that again so I can picture that again.
Oh, yeah,
Say that.
please do repeat that.
Oh my goodness. It means the house where the Father has the answer now for the poverty and misery of death. He has that authority. That's what Bethany means. Bethany also has, it's really interesting, that there's a part of the word Bethany that speaks to the realm of authority, the house of the Father. Right? So in essence, what's happened as we look at this word together, Bethany, Lazarus, right? God has helped now, right? God has helped. Lazarus is in the house of the Father who provides the answer, who literally has the authority for the answer. And so everything we've been talking about is in those two words. Now, what's also interesting about this is as we read through the story, is the fact that Jesus waited 4 days.
Yes.
4 days. 4 derives its meaning from creation. On the 4th day, God created the sun and the moon and the days that measure the seasons. In the Greek, the word for seasons is moed, and it's translated appointed time. So when we think of Bethany and Lazarus, what's happened, 4 days is the measured season of the appointed time for the Messiah to exert his authority and bring the creation of life now into Lazarus, because it's already been done. It's a great story.
Yes, it is.
And I love it. It's really interesting to me. So we see all of this sort of in the big picture. We see this in the big picture, and it's really kind of, to me, humorous that when we break these words down and we understand what's happening. Listen to the story. A man named Lazarus who lived in Bethany became sick. That's a fact. Bethany was the town where Mary and her sister Martha lived. This Mary was the one who poured the perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was sick. The sisters sent Jesus a message. Lord, your dear friend is sick. Oh my goodness. And we talk about being moved by need or being moved by what God is saying about the situation. When Jesus heard it, he said, the final result of the sickness will not be the death of Lazarus. Then he goes on to say, this has happened in order to bring glory to God. And remember the answer. Jesus loved Martha and his sister and Lazarus. Yeah. He received the news that Lazarus was sick. He stayed where he was for 2 more days. Then he said to the disciples, hey, let's go back to Judea. Teacher, the disciples answered, wait a minute. Just a short time ago, the people there wanted to stone you. Are you planning to go back? Jesus said a day is 12 hours, doesn't it? We're talking about seasons and time. So those who walk in broad daylight, they don't stumble, but they see the light of this world. But if they walk during the night, they stumble because they have no light. And what an incredible statement about light and dark, right? And Jesus said this and then added, now listen, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I'll go wake him up. Now remember what Lazarus means, remember what Bethany means, remember the time of the seasons, right? And the disciple said, well, if he's asleep, Lord, he'll get well. Like, yeah. No, Jesus meant that Lazarus had died. But they thought he meant natural sleep. So Jesus told them plainly, he's dead. Okay, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, here the boys are saying, first of all, they're afraid to go to Judea because they're going to get stoned, right? They're more afraid for their life than anything, right? We're going to really follow this guy back into Judea. We're going to get stoned. But it's like they have no awareness. No, they see everything in the natural. Everything that they're associated with is in the lesser. Right? They see it. They know it's getting ready to happen. They know Judea is a bad place for us. I mean, they were wanting to stone us if we go back. Oh my gosh, we're going to get stoned too with you. I'm not really ready to die yet. I'm not really hooked myself to this, quite frankly, yet. You know what I mean? Like, really, I'm not really sold into this yet.
70-30, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the reason I'm not sold into it is what I see. So I'm not sold out because of what I see. And I know if I go, I'm going to get stoned. So I'm not going to sell out to this journey to you because of what I see in the lesser, what I see in the natural. And then they're like, oh, well, if he's asleep, he's going to get well. We don't have to go back. It's right there. Oh, okay, he's asleep. Oh, he'll get well. That's good. He's going to get well because oh man, thank goodness. We don't have to go. Right? When you said he was asleep, now we don't. Oh, man, thank goodness. We don't have to, I'm good now, right? And then Jesus, look, he knows their thoughts, right? We get this, right? We understand. He's probably sitting there listening to this transpire. And then I can see him now, right? I can see him now sitting there going, and these guys, all they're concerned about is their own safety and welfare based on what they see in the natural. And so they think that, well, if he's just asleep, he's going to get well and he's going to wake up, so I'm off the hook. And then he goes, no, hey, guys, hey, this newsflash, no, he's dead. Well, that kind of takes everything off the table now. And now all of a sudden, now I'm really not going now. He's dead. Why do I have to go back now? I mean, do you see how this is setting up? Now, okay, he's dead. I don't have to go back at all, man. Thank goodness we don't have to go back to Judea. Again, everything in the lesser, everything in their perspective is from the lesser. It's from what they're seeing with their eyes. And Jesus said, no, guys, you don't understand. This is for God's glory. This is for my glory. But for your sake, I'm glad that I was not with him. I'm really glad I wasn't there for your sake. So that you will believe. Let's go to him. I'm not sure. I mean, what have you hooked your wagon to? What are you sold out to? Right? I mean, so here these guys with Jesus. They see people come and say, hey, the one you love is sick. And he goes, okay, good, thanks. Got that. Duly noted. It's registered. Thank you very much for telling me. And this isn't the word, but I could kind of guess the people who came were like,
That's not.
no, you didn't hear me. He said, yeah, okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's good.
So they had to go back and tell Mary and Martha what he said.
It's all good. I get it. Okay, thank you. No, you're not coming? No, I'm not actually. We're gonna stay here a couple more days. Thanks.
Yeah.
And the boys are watching this. Can you imagine the boys sitting here watching this? They're watching what's happening. They're listening to this exchange. They're seeing with their eyes. They're hearing with their ears. They've observed this whole thing. And then the question of going to Judea comes up. Oh, wait a minute. Dangerous. Danger, Will Robinson. I'm not really sure I'm going. Why are we going to do that? Oh, he's asleep. He'll wake up. He'll get well. We don't have to go. Jesus said, no, you don't get it. He's dead. Wait a minute. You said he was asleep. No, he's dead. When you said he was asleep, you've missed the point. You've already missed the point.
We're going to bring him back to life.
What are you going to believe? Is he asleep or is he dead? Right? And so you place your faith really on the fact that if he's asleep, he's going to get well. I don't have to go. Right? So their posture is really built on the fact that they don't want it to cost them anything. So Jesus said, okay, if that's your posture, I'll tell you right up front, he's dead. I don't understand. I'm really confused. All right. He was asleep, now he's dead. Tell me you're dead, they're going to stone us. Then he says, okay, let's go. Oh, wait a minute. No, it's for God's glory, it's for my glory. Oh, and by the way, I'm glad I wasn't there with him so that he died. I mean, that's the inference of what he said, right? I'm glad I wasn't there with him, so he died. That's a red letter talking now. I mean, can you see that? For your sake, I'm glad I wasn't there and he died. So that you believe. Believe what? And then he said, okay, let's go. He just gets up and start walking. I don't think it was one of these things. He said, all right, guys, let's go. Come on. He said, okay, let's go. And he started moving. And I can see Pete now. What's he doing? What? Wait a minute. Holy Jiminy Crickets, he's really going to do this. And I can see the boys kind of going, we're following? What are we going to do? Right? And he's just walking. He's on his way to Bethany. But he said, okay, let's go. Remember, we got this story in Mark, this wonderful story in Mark, right? After we have sort of the feeding of the thousands, where Jesus told the boys, go to the other side, get in the boat and go. I'll meet you there, right? They kind of struggled with the boat. Jesus went up on the mountain with his Nikon night vision goggles, saw him struggling in the third hour, right? And then he walked on the water, right? And if you read in the account of Mark, what's really interesting about that is Mark records the fact that it was intention not to stop. This wasn't a rescue mission. Why? He was on his way to the other side. Did he tell him, I'll meet you on the other side? He was on his way to the other side. He said, okay, let's go. He gets up and goes. Right? Where's he going? To Bethany. Why? Because he had something he needed to do. Boys had to make a decision. Just like had to make a decision that day in the boat, right? What are you going to hitch your wagon to? You see, this always boils down to the lesser and the greater. Whatever the situation is, I don't care what the situation is. Here we've got a situation where somebody's dead. Somebody that Jesus cared a lot about. Somebody who was told, hey, he's sick. And he said, good, thanks, noted. Somebody who waited 4 days. And then he gets up and he said, okay, let's go. And the boys had seen all of this play out. And then it gets even better. And so they go walk, they take off to Bethany. Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, well, hey, let us go along with the teacher so that we may die with him.
Boost of confidence.
Way to go, Daddy Thomas, right? No wonder he's called Daddy Thomas, right? Hey, let us go. Hey, with the teacher, we're dead too. All right? It's right there in the book. You guys read this book, right? You see this? It's right there. So when he arrived, he found that Lazarus had been buried for 4 days. Bethany was less than 2 miles from Jerusalem. Many Judeans had come to see Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother's death. Martha heard that Jesus was coming. She went out and met him. Mary stayed in the house. Imagine that. Martha said to Jesus, if you've been here. There's an exclamation point in my Bible. It ought to be a couple exclamation points and a couple other symbols behind it. Because quite honestly, I don't think she was happy about the fact that he showed up.
Oh, no.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, I think this was a confrontation.
She was expecting him to come like right then. She's like, well, it's too late now.
If you'd been here, Lord, my brother would not have died. Then he kind of catches herself. I think this is pretty funny in verse 22. She kind of catches herself. But I know. I know even now God will give you whatever you ask for him. Jesus says, brother's going to rise to life. It's going to live. It's all good. Why are you such an uncle? Why are you so panicked by what you see? Jesus said to her, look, I'm the resurrection and the life. Don't you know who I am? Those who believe in me will live, and even though they die. And those who live and believe in me will never die. Do you believe this? Yes, Lord, she answered. I do believe that you are Messiah, Son of God, who's come into the world. She didn't answer the question.
Right.
You ever paid attention to that? She didn't answer the question. Right? She didn't answer his question. After Martha said this, she went back, called her sister Mary privately. The teacher's here, she told him, and he's asking for you. I don't see that anywhere in the transcript that he was asking for. When Mary heard this, she got up, hurried out to meet him. Jesus had not arrived to the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. The people were in the house with Mary, comforting her, followed her when they saw her get up and hurry out. They thought she was going to the grave to weep there. Mary arrived where Jesus was, and as soon as she saw him, fell at his feet. Lord, if you'd been here, my brother would not have died. Still, everything in the lesson, right? Didn't answer the question about him being the resurrection and the life. I know who you are. I know what you say. Yeah, I get all that. She didn't answer the question. She didn't say, yes, he'll live. Because of who you are, he'll live. I have all the confidence in the fact that you've come to resurrect my brother. I mean, that's really the question he asked her. He said, you know who I am. I'm the resurrection and the life. And she even said that anything you ask of God, he'll give you. Jesus declares who he is, life, and she doesn't respond in faith to what he said to her. Instead, she responds out of her religious understanding of who Messiah was, not in faith to truly who Messiah was. That's a real interesting twist in this story, right? And so then it gets even better. It gets even funnier, I think. Jump all the way down to verse 35. We see that Jesus wept, he loved him. Then he says, in 34, he says, where have you buried him? Come and see, Lord, they answered. 37, said, whoa! He gave sight to the blind, didn't he? Could he not have kept Lazarus from dying? So third time we hear this in this story. Could he have not kept Lazarus from dying? They answer that question, of course. But he was teaching a lesson. What's the lesson? He's already said he's asleep. He's going to wake up. He said that way back.
It's already completed.
It's already been completed, right? It's already been done. He's already sown the seed of life, has he not? Did he not sow the seed of life? Mm-hmm. Just asleep, he'll live. He's already sown what he's seen in heaven from his Father, right? Because we know that he didn't do anything but what he sees and hears his Father saying do, right? We understand that about him. He's already seen the end of this story. He's already said what's getting ready to happen. Everybody else around him is reacting in the lesser and in the natural. He's already sown the seed. And even though the seed's been sown, we're in the time of germination. Nobody sees the fruit of the seed that's been sown.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he's already, what did he say? I read it. No, you don't understand. He's just asleep. He's going to be okay. And And then he said, oh no, he's dead. He's gonna be okay. And so then he's there, he says, well, come take me to the place. And I don't know about you, he walks up to the place, up to the grave, and he stands there and he says, roll the stone away. And what do they say? Oh, wait a minute, you don't understand. He's been in there 4 days. He's going to sleep. Right? I mean, it's everything about this story is wrapped up in the lesson, is it not? Everything.
Yes.
The whole story is wrapped up in that, except for the fact when they came to Jesus initially in the very beginning of the story, what was his response when they said he was sick? No, he's just asleep. He's going to be fine. From the very beginning. We go through this entire story and we see all of the reactions of all of these different people to the fact that Lazarus is dead. He's dead. He's in the tomb. But nobody listened. Nobody grabbed hold of the fact that he had already said he's fine. He's okay. Roll the stone away. I don't know about you. Have you guys been the guy that had to go roll the stone away? And can you imagine that guy? Those dudes who went and rolled that stone away. Can you imagine what they were thinking as they were walking down to the grave? This guy has lost his mind, right? The guy, what is he doing? Again, just thinking through the story, everything about this is wrapped up in the lesson, right? It's all right there. And the lesson that he's trying to teach him is, listen, you've got to understand, I am the resurrection and the life. Put your trust in me. I want to take care of it. But you can say and decree, even Red Letter said and decreed the word and waited 4 days. Mm-hmm. He waited the season, right? I mean, I told you what 4 meant. He waited the season, the appointed time. Every time you sow the word of what you see in faith, there is a germination period before the answers manifest. Every time. Every time. If there was a germination period for Red Letter, now I believe Red Letter, I mean, we see in the narrative too that Red Letter just spoke and it happened too. I mean, we see that in the story too. But I think just in this narrative, he's teaching them a lesson, right? We got to see that. We got to understand that, because if we don't grasp the nature of the germination period, the process of germination, we will miss the promise. We'll give up on it. They'd given up on it. He was in the hole with a rock over it. He had died, and I mean, as a matter of fact, I don't know about you, if you really understand Jewish custom, he was embalmed. I mean, he was fully embalmed, fully entombed. I mean, it wasn't like they just laid him in there 4 minutes ago. Right? Those of you who are in the medical profession, what happens to the human body in 4 days after they take all the fluids out? Right? It's pretty nasty, right? Flesh starts to decay. I mean, it's not a pleasant sight.
Especially not being airtight.
It's right. Yeah, it wasn't airtight. It's a good point, right? And this is a rough situation that we're going into. But again, no matter how difficult the natural was looking, Jesus had already said he's just sleeping, he's fine. How many times in prayer are we given the answer and we decree it, and we don't wait for the appointed season for the harvest and the answer to manifest? We rush it, right? Or we get disappointed, we stop, right? We get disillusioned, all the D's, right? And we miss the harvest, we miss the answer. Even though we've seen it and declared it, we miss the answer because we stop pressing through the season. Right? And we don't step into the season because it looks difficult, right? Hey, we're going to Judea, they're going to stun us. Look, that season sometimes doesn't look very promising. When you think about this season that Jesus is stepping into, they're after him in Judea, they're going to kill him, they're going to stone him, and we got all this turmoil just around just the fact that he wants to go back to Judea. His best friend is dead. People have come and said to him, if you'd been here, he wouldn't have done. Right? And he's sick. Okay, great, good. I mean, I got a feeling in this whole story, there's not a whole lot of good stuff going on in this story. Except Jesus. He's like, come on, let's go. I've already said he's okay. Now let's go. Everybody else around Thomas said, okay, everybody will follow us. We died too. I mean, do you see the last 4 weeks in this story? Do you see the last 4 weeks in the name Lazarus, Bethany, and in 4? And it's all right there. The lesson is there for us to see, to understand, but it is hard. It's difficult. The season doesn't look promising. They're going to stone me. I'm going to die. It's, people upset and angry. Things don't look good. But Jesus said, come on, let's go. Let's go into the situation. I'm going with you, by the way. That's what he said. I'm going with you into the situation. I don't care how dire it looks. I don't care how impossible it looks. I don't care what you're hearing, what you're seeing. I don't care what the lesser's presenting. I don't care what the situation is. I've already said what the answer is. Now I'm going with you through this process, and you're going to see the fruit of what I've declared. Cool story, isn't it? It's a neat story. I said, they roll the stone away, right? And nothing happens. I don't know what they were thinking when they were, I guess they thought Lazarus was going to come sprinting out of the room. I don't know what they expected. And they rolled the stone away and nothing happened. Could you imagine that? Can you imagine the buildup to roll the stone away, and they roll the stone away, and it's like drum roll. I thought the Jeopardy thing. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Now I'm sure at this point in time, everybody thought he really lost his mind now, right? He said he was asleep. So I said, okay, yeah, we're going to take off. We're going to get stoned, right? We're going to die here. They're going to throw us in that hole too. After they kill us, we're going to be in the tomb with Lazarus, right? And then he just steps up and he says, look, I've told you guys already. It's okay. Hey, Lazarus, come on. And he speaks the word. Right? And then he turns and he looks at him and says, now go in time. Right? Go in time. I told you it was going to be okay. Faith requires trust in the one who's given the promise. Faith requires trust in the one.
You would see the glory of God.
There you go. Isn't that where the rubber meets the road?
Yes.
Can you trust the one who's given the promise? That is the battle. It's right here. It's right here. I'm telling you, the battle is right here because we continually listen with our eyes. And as we've talked about repeatedly over and over again, you listen with your eyes, and that creates a narrative in your mind. That narrative in your mind eventually comes out of your mouth. And whatever you're thinking, whatever that is, comes out of your mouth. Those are the seeds that you sow. And they take a germination period too. So there's a lot of times you can do something stupid, say something stupid, and you think, oh, nothing happened. Hallelujah. No, it's there. It's coming, right? Because once you speak them, it's like toothpaste. Once you squeeze toothpaste out of the tube, you can't put it back. When those words come out of your pie hole, you can't put them back. When they come out, they're out. And so that's why this is so important for us to, as Jimmy says, capture your thoughts, right? Wash them. Word of God. Make sure that You're not impetuous. You're not like Thomas and said, well, might as well go, so we'll die too. Right? I mean, can you imagine how all of this puts together? So this story really is indicative of what we've been talking about for the last 4 weeks. I mean, it's a clear illustration of this process that we've been talking about. So we jump back into what is faith. So faith provides eyes for the heart. Faith provides eyes for the heart. The heart is the soul and the spirit together. So the soul and the spirit have got to come together. That's your heart. So out of the abundance of a man's heart, he speaks, right? If your soul and your spirit aren't together, you're going to produce a vocabulary out of who's dominant. What's dominant? Is your soul dominant? Or is your spirit man dominant? If they're together, if they're united as one, then the spirit man is going to be the dominant source of your words. If not, if there's a separation in that, right? Your soul man is really going to be down. Oh no, my spirit. No, I'm telling you right now, I know that if your soul and spirit aren't together, if they're not combined, and the spirit man is not the genesis and source of your words, out of a man's heart, he speaks. Out of a man's heart, so he is. We really need to understand how this works. And so faith then, right, we're talking about faith, a belief in the unseen, right? That's really the Hebrews 11, 1-3 definition of faith. Faith gives my heart, my soul, and my spirit man clings to that definition, and out of that comes my vocabulary, right? So faith gives eyes to my heart. What do I see? Who's dominant? Who's dominant in the rapper, right? Who's dominant in the rapper? And you can talk all day long if you want to. If you guys have been around me a long time, know I really believe strongly in understanding how the soul works. I get that. We need to understand the mind, will, and emotions. We need to understand that part of who we are. And if we don't understand that part of who we are, we then don't understand how the spirit man, right, plays into that equation. We just think, oh, it's the spirit. Spirit. Yes, Bill.
The one that's dominant is the one that gets fed the most.
Oh, yes. Right? Right, and so we got to understand how that works. See, we've almost kicked the soul to the curb. We don't even talk about the soul anymore. I've actually had people question me and ask me, why do you talk about the soul all the time? Because it's really important. It's part of who you are. As a matter of fact, this is part of you that's going to live forever. Yeah. Just saying. And have you read your book lately? It's right there, right? And yet we don't give any time. We talk about is spirit. Ooh. Right? And we don't give any talk or credence to how do I think, how do I make decisions, and my emotional IQ. And so I could be out here all day long and have the emotional IQ of a 2-year-old. And you can do ooh all you want to. And if you got an emotional IQ of a 2-year-old, you're going to react like a 2-year-old. I don't care how woo you are. I'm just telling you the way it is. That's what's going to happen. You're going to react like a 2-year-old. You listen, you can soak all day long. You can go to your cave all day long. You can stay in the word all day long. But if you don't have the emotional IQ, if your emotional IQ isn't tied to your spirit, man, you're going to react to the lesser. Why? Because you're still listening with your eyes. You're going to react out of the lesser, and you're going to react like a 2-year-old. Because you've got the emotional IQ of a 2-year-old. And you might be 70 years old and you got the emotional IQ of a 2-year-old. You ring the bell. Ring it for me. Just ring the bell for me. Right? I'm just saying, I see this over and over and over again. And because we react with an emotional IQ of a 2-year-old, how good a decision you make when you react to anything.
That's right.
Ooh, man, you react like a 2-year-old, you're making a 2-year-old decision. I don't care how woo you are. I'm telling you, we've gone woo, woo, and we don't how any of this other stuff works. Now you're going to create a really powerful believer on this earth. We don't do that. We just want the flags and wonderful worship and all this good stuff. And I'm going to go soak for 37 days. And, right? I mean, you can soak all day long. Okay, you can do all your little activities to get the woohoo. I mean, if y'all listened to Pastor Mike yesterday, I'm telling you, this is what he was talking about. Right? We've been talking about a remnant now for almost a year.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's the difference in enjoying the presence of God, be marked. You've heard me say that repeatedly over and over and over again. We don't train people how to understand how to think. Right? Work out your salvation daily with fear and trembling. My version of that is retrain your soul to think different. That's really what you're doing, is you're retraining your soul to think different. Because when your information is right, your experience changes, right? We can combine all of this, put all of this together and understand why this happens to us, and why this statement that becomes so important to us is that faith, our Hebrews 11, 1-3 faith. Do you trust what you see in the Spirit from what God has said to you more than what you believe in the natural? He's asleep, he's good. And everything else from that moment on until he comes out of the grave is attached to the lesser, because they were only seeing the event through their lesser lens. What are you doing? What do you see? So I ask you guys all the time, day in and day out, class after class, what do you see? Because if you're looking at the lesser, your vocabulary is going to reflect what you see. Your vocabulary will reflect what you believe in. Your life will give evidence of what you believe to be true. And I can keep throwing these things out there. And we build this foundation in that first year's class. We talk about how that foundation is built. And then in Thursday night's class, we take that foundation and start pounding it out on the ground. Because if we don't learn how to walk this stuff out, all you're going to do is go woohoo, and the world is going to kick your butt. Period. Yep. You reading that for me? Right? I'm just telling you. It's just going to happen. And so I am committed to discipling people to understand how to be in this world but not of it. And instead of letting this world kick their butt, kick the world's butt.
Amen. That's a good one.
And to me, the narrative says that's what you're supposed to be doing anyway. And we're up and down, just lesbian, I don't know. Go out and pick a daisy. We're all over the place with this. And yet the narrative is clear. The narrative is fundamentally clear in this. And this story that we see in John, it tells us exactly what this is about. So Luke 6:45, people are known in this same way. What is the way? See verse 44. All right, you guys got your book in front of you. Go read verse 44. Out of the virtue, I love this word. This word virtue means benefit, asset, or advantage stored in their heart. Out of the advantage stored in their heart. Can you imagine? Let's think about it. An old athlete, loved football. Think of the advantage you would have if you knew the play that was coming. Can you imagine that? Think of the advantage you have if you knew what was getting ready to happen. Think of the advantage you had if you really now listen, the narrative tells us that don't be stupid about the schemes of our adversary. That's really what the word is. We really want to soften that word. Don't be ignorant. Don't be misunderstanding. No, the word in the Greek is stupid. I mean, that's what the word is. Don't be stupid. I mean, we water down this. We water it down so much because I don't want to offend you, Judy. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to say stupid. I apologize.
You don't know me very well.
Right. I mean, right. But the Greek word being stupid, don't be stupid of what he's doing. So what if we had the benefit and the advantage stored in our hearts of what's getting ready to happen? Do you believe that can happen?
Oh, yeah.
It's got to happen that way, right? You have the mind of Christ, you're in the spirit, we got all these things going on for us. Of course, we should have that advantage. Why don't we act on that advantage? Because we listen with our eyes.
Yes.
I'm just telling you. We got it, it's all there. And we look and we go, oh! And we react out of what we see. Instead of, hey, look, man, I got the advantage. I know what he does. He's a thief. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He's a liar, period. End of conversation. And, oh, by the way, not only is he those things, oh, by the way, just for good measure, right? Just for good measure. He's got absolutely no power. None. Zero. Nada. Not a drop of power or authority. Nothing. Not a thing. That really throws the deliverance crew upside down. I'm sorry. I know a lot of trouble with that. But it's true, it's in the book. All authority and power in heaven and earth have been given to who? How much does he have then? All means, in the Greek, all means all. Last time I checked. It doesn't mean 30 seconds. Right? He didn't have 1/32. All authority and power were given to Jesus through the cross, through the power of redemption, and it's been given to us. And so he's a thief. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. He's powerless. Period. End of story. No, nothing is there for him. Zero. You must be calling. I heard the bell. Something rang. Is that what an angel got his wings away with? So, stored in their hearts, good and upright people do what? What happens? You produce good fruit. Why are you producing good fruit? Where does the fruit come from?
Sowing good seed.
Sowing good seed. You're exactly right. Why do you sow good seed? You know what's getting ready to happen. That's what it says. You're known this way. You're known as one who is reaping good fruit. Why? Because you have the advantage of knowing what's going on. Yes, exactly. You see how powerful that is? And yet we meander through life. Oh, ooh. And then the world comes and punches us in the face, and we go, oh, where did God go? And this whole script flips. He said, let's go to Judea. It wasn't pleasant in Judea. I'm telling you, Jimmy tells us, don't be surprised. Stop it. When all of these things come about, don't look at it. Look, you got advance notice. Judea sucks. Sometimes. They're going to try to kill you. They're going to stone you. Sometimes it's just bad. Yeah. Right? And Thomas went, oh, well, he's going. We'll go down with him. Right? They didn't even think he can make it through Judea. Much less themselves make it through Judea.
And as much as they had already seen, you would have thought, I mean.
What they were looking with.
Yeah. Right. And so it gets even better. So likewise, what does the word likewise mean? So that if this is the good side of the story, right? If there's a good side to Bethany, there's a bad side to Bethany, right? Likewise, out of the evil hidden in their hearts, evil one will produce what is evil. Imagine that, right? Seed will produce fruit after its kind. You have advanced knowledge.
Mhm.
You have advanced knowledge.
Yes, yes.
It's right here, Luke 6:45. You now have advanced knowledge. You know bad people are bad people. And they do bad things. Imagine that. Oh my God, I didn't know that. You have advanced knowledge. You have the game plan. You have the word. You have the scouting report. You got everything you need. It's all right there. And yet we react like a 2-year-old when we get punched in the face. We just do. Why? Because we've never been trained. We've never been trained to be different. We've never been told, stop. Don't do this anymore. This is the way you do things, right? You've got to understand how to be in this world, but not of it. We have a church. I say anybody's church. Don't go out on Facebook. I'm just telling you, we have a church that is in this world and of this world.
Yeah.
And they walk and they live their life by what they see, what they hear in the natural, and they disregard. Again, you got advance notice now. I'm giving you another advance notice. Romans 12:1-2. Here's your advance notice. Throw yourself down on the altar so the fire of God consumes you completely. So there's nothing of you left. Which, oh, by the way, that's your reasonable act of worship. Your reasonable act of worship is dying. I mean, I don't know what we think about when we read Romans 12:1, but I mean, we don't put Romans 12:1 together. We don't understand what he's talking about. Paul is saying to you, your reasonable act of worship is crawling up the altar and dying, letting the fire of God consume you. Step 1. Step 2, after you're dead, after that process is transpired, step 2, don't conform to the world. Step 2, don't conform to the world. How do you do that? I don't know. Right? He tells us right after that. How do you do that? How?
By
reading
reading
the
his
word.
word, meditating on his word.
Washing it in the word of
Speaking his
God.
word.
Right? But he tells us clearly. Right? You now have advanced advantage. You have advanced notice. Right? You have an advantage now. Romans 12:1-2. You have the process. You know what to do. It gets better. So for the overflow of what's been stored in your heart, what you see, faith provides eyes for the heart. In your heart will be seen by your fruit, by your harvest. If you don't like your harvest, change your seed. See, I'm really not making this up. Back in the day, if I thought I was really making all this stuff, I'm really not making it up. It's really right there. Change your seed. And then it goes on, and will be heard in your words. I can tell the seed you're sowing by the words you speak. Talking you about. So now you really have advanced notice. If you don't like your harvest, listen to what you're saying.
But you get around those people that are so negative.
Oh,
And they just, as you're listening to them, you just feel like you're carrying their burden because they just carry everything that they've already said. So they're kind of like dumping it on you, and it's like, I gotta go. Yeah, right. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be there all the time. I mean, listen, you live in this world, but you're not of it.
That's right.
Right? And you're not ignorant now, right? You've got advanced. Luke tells us in 6:45, you got advanced notice. Paul tells us in Romans 12:1-2, you got advanced notice. Listen, there should be no excuse anymore. I mean, the challenge is stop listening with your eyes. The challenge is make sure your emotional IQ is strong. Stop reacting to things. Learn how you make decisions. Learn how you think. Right? Info and experience. You got to change information to change experience. Right? I mean, so all of these things become so important. The challenge in it all is we've never been trained how to do that. Right? We got the woohoo pretty good. We got that pretty good. Matter of fact, a lot of people chase that. Right? And a lot of people will chase that. And I like conferences too. Please don't go on Facebook and say I hate conferences. I understand the role of a conference. I get it, right? I understand. But if I'm chasing, what am I chasing in the conference? Am I chasing the experience of the woohoo? Or am I really going because God has something there for me? Right? And so we run around for the experience. We want the experience.
You wear yourself out.
Oh, you never find the answer, right? Because you're chasing the next high.
That's a good one.
Ouch, right? You're chasing the next experience. You're chasing the next high instead of taking the experience you have, right, and understanding how to live out of that. Right? Live out of the experience you already have. Like every encounter that you have is the baseline for the next encounter. Right? I get that. Right? It is. It's the baseline for the next one. However, if we're just chasing the encounter, Bill Johnson says we should teach you to the encounter. So we should teach you in class how to then encounter through the Word of God, not chase the encounter to the next meeting down the road. Make sense?
Well, if you're just chasing the encounter, you're missing out on the whole relationship.
Every bit of it. So everything is possible. As the overflow of his goodness overwhelms the inferior and the lesser circumstances of life, black, tarnish, and decay. Everything. But you got to see and understand that you can operate in that overflow. Right? I mean, you guys have been around, you've seen me do the water bottle thing so many times. It's probably a joke now, but it's true, that water bottle experience. Not going to give it away because I do that in first year. So coming to first year, you'll understand the water bottle. But there's the abundance of overflow that you guys can operate in. And when we begin to see that we operate in the abundance of the overflow, then everything's possible. Everything.
Now that overflows in the people around you.
Absolutely. Right? So revival, right? Well, stop praying for revival. Well, I know that how it's said. Rockstone. We're going to pray for revival. He said, I've come to give life and life more abundantly. Yes. That's revival, is it not?
Yes.
Is that in you? You're in revival. Why are you praying for something you already have? Instead of praying for revival, be revival. So let the 3 feet around you overflow, puddle, right? We talked about that in first year. Puddle the glory and presence of God that's out of the overflow of your relationship with him. Okay. So he will always choose his methods, not ours. Oh. You see, we've got what we think is the way it should happen, right? We've got a situation. I don't care what the situation is. Lazarus is dying. Well, we got the answer. Run and tell Jesus and tell him that his best friend is dying. Try to manipulate the Messiah. I don't think anybody got that. I think you're the only person in the room that got that. Go try to manipulate Messiah and tell him your best friend is dying. You better come quickly. Right? Jesus was never moved out of need. Ever. Always moved out of compassion, never moved out of need. Anyway, so, right? And all of a sudden, we see that we've got this idea. We think we got it. We see the promise, and then we think we got the idea about how it's going to unfold. Right? Oh, I see it. I swear it's going to happen. And guess what? It never is how you think it's gonna happen. This isn't. Why? Because now you gotta trust the germination period.
Mm.
See, the challenge is in that germination period, we want to put our hands to it.
Mhm.
Abraham and Sarah did, right? And I'm telling you right now, what's going on in the Middle East, what's happening today, right now,
Yes.
right this second in the Middle East,
That.
as a result of,
Yep.
of the two of them meddling with what God was doing.
Exactly.
We're-
Still.
We're still dealing with that today, right?
Yep.
That and the fact that when they went into the promised land, they didn't really do what God told them to do. A whole lot of parts of that. And the seed of that, really the seed of that was birth. And the fact that when God told Abram to go, he said, take your family and nothing else. And he took Lot.
Mhm.
That's it. Anyway, so it's not your method. And we think it's going to be our method. And when things don't start happening the way we think they're supposed to happen, we react out of our 2-year-old emotional IQ and we get upset. Well, it's supposed to happen this way. God, I'm a man of faith. I'm a man of prayer. I'm a man of the word. Great. I'm glad. Woo, right? It's not your method. God has a way of fulfilling the promise. You have to trust him in the fulfillment of that process and in the method that that's going to transpire.
Mhm.
And sometimes the Lord will show you something, give you a word, and then as soon as you get that word, it's like your mind, you start to think, oh, I know how that's gonna turn out. And so you make a picture, and then when it gets to the way it unfolds, you're disappointed because that's not the way I saw it.
Even though you got the answer, you're
Even though God
disappointed.
gave you an answer.
Come on, ring the bell, right?
I believe that one.
And the way that's the way that happens.
Or sometimes people think that, oh, God said, oh, well, here, I can help, I can do this.
I can help, yeah,
I can do this. God doesn't need your help to do anything. He just needs you to listen to what he tells you.
and obey,
And obey.
right? So how about the second one? We're expected to see from our heart, right? We talked about what the heart is, right? So we're expected to see through faith in our heart, trusting our ability to discern what we see. And some of us need a little bit of discernment. And some of us have the discernment of a rock. And unfortunately, some of us who have a deep grace mechanism in us, we're willing to give people a whole lot of grace mechanism when we should really be seeing a little bit more discernment. That's why God gave me my beautiful wife. She can see like that.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Yeah. I got, so we'll share, okay, we'll share t-shirts, right? Right, I mean, she gets it. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been doing stuff and she walked up to me and said, don't do that, it's wrong. Be careful, this is this. Oh, no, honey, what are you trying? No, and it bites me in my backside. And I gotta go back and say, yo, you were right. I should have listened to it. That's exactly.
Next
Hey,
time.
I'm learning. I'm getting better.
Yeah, learning.
Let me say I'm getting better, right? So,
At least you're improving. You're moving forward.
I'm moving forward, right? I'm trying. I'm working hard. But I'm so thankful now that I'm beginning to understand how she operates and gives discernment. Stop it, Pastor.
And you kind of run it in your own mind.
We're so sorry for Denise.
If you know all the stuff about you and Mary Earl, you wouldn't even chosen her.
Well, you feel sorry for Denise. What's the matter with you, Lois Lane? Stop. Heard that. Now, what are you doing over there? in your corner?
Say hi.
That's right. We ain't ashamed of it.
See, what's interesting though is Matthew, Luke, and Hebrews say that if we rely on our natural sight, we're hypocrites. Ow. But I didn't say that. Take it up with Maddie. Right? You gotta take that up with Maddie and Luke and the writer of the book of Hebrews. That's not me. I didn't say that. I'm just repeating what they said. Don't shoot the messenger, right? Right? I mean, and so this thing, and why the term hypocrite? Right? I mean, if you study the word hypocrite in the New Testament, what was he talking about when he called them hypocrites? Double-minded. They were religious, right? They were religious and they were double-minded
Unstable.
and unstable in everything they did, right? And so I don't want to be that guy. That's not. I don't want to be unstable. I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? And so in order for us to do that, we got to stop relying on what we see with our natural eye. See, that's what happens to us a lot of times, you know, in spiritual warfare. I'm gonna really get in trouble.
Go for it.
I don't care.
Step on in.
Right? And so what happens to us in spiritual warfare is we see something in the natural and we go to war in the spirit, we think, in the natural. And you're fighting in the natural, and does it affect anything? Not a thing.
Nerf gun.
It's a Nerf gun. That's good. I like that. It's a Nerf gun. It's a water pistol, a Nerf gun. I mean, it's not effective, right? Because, for instance, let's take our government, for instance. Right? So we see things, right? We see things. We hear things. We want to go to war with the things we see and hear. And so everything, our entire prayer life, our entire intercession, our entire spiritual warfare is built around what we see, instead of understanding what God is saying about what you see. And praying from what God says about what you see instead of praying from what you see. That happens in all intercession, whatever it is. I'll also go as far to say that happens in prophetic.
Yes.
Can you walk up and give somebody a prophetic word without giving them that prophetic word out of what you see in the natural?
You gotta really be pure and then.
Yeah. See, but now you got advance notice, so you know that's the way it's got to work, right? And so how easy is it for us to walk up and start to pray for somebody, and you start praying out of what you see in the natural, and you give them a prophetic word out of what you've seen in the natural, and nothing happens. You false prophet, you. Yes.
Donna brought up a good point. She says, time with him brings revelation.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Yes.
And so in prophetic ministry, in healing ministry, in any kind of ministry, I don't care what it is, intercession, prayer, just a regular prayer ministry, whatever the ministry is, whatever it is, can you stop ministering out of what you see? For the fear of man is snare. And I'm telling you, if I ministered by the facial expressions that I get in class, I would have stopped a long time. I'd have just walked out and said, I'm not doing this anymore. Right? I mean,
Sometimes we're just tired.
I understand. Right? I get it. But I'm just tired. Right? I go through these expressions, right? I get these expressions in class, right? People who come for the first time, they sit in class for the first time, then at first year class, and after about week 3, they're sitting there looking at me like this. Man, they won't crack a smile, they won't laugh, they won't interact, they're just like.
They're trying to figure out the boys and the guys in the red letter and.
Yeah, they're just, I'm crushing their religious spirit,
Right.
because they're all upset because I'm calling Jesus red letter. Right? Yeah, I did. I mean, if I relied on you guys looking at me going, man, this is great, good, keep going, I didn't quit a long time ago. You guys look at me sometimes like. And then you fact check me, right? I love the fact checkers, right? I'll say something and they grab the Bible and me and there's fact check. I I got the fact checkers, right? Then I got the group that really thinks I'm making all this stuff up. I've lost my mind and I'm making all this stuff up.
Better yet, the one that tells you in class you lost your mind.
So, you've got to understand that if we do anything, judge no man by the flesh, but only by the Spirit. Can you minister to a person by what you see in the Spirit in that individual? Right? You can unlock somebody's destiny in a second when you begin to speak what you see God saying about that individual. I'm telling you, it works. I'll also go as far as to say this. Sometimes if you understand the call of God in your life, you can radically alter a person's life with a hug. You're not saying a word. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to open your mouth. You don't have to say a word.
Are you talking about that?
Yeah.
That deliverance?
Yes.
You have a fantastic kind of story.
About deliverance?
Yeah, all I did was kind of.
Yeah, well, this goes way. A lot of you may have heard this story before and may remember it. If I do, I'm sorry for repeating myself, but to Eric's point, we were over in the old building a long time ago, and we were in a conference, and I'd taken a break. I was actually sitting on a stoop, trying not to be involved in church stuff. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, you kind of get to that point. You've been in a conference, a couple of days, and afternoon session breaks. Man, I just wanted to sit on the stoop, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to minister to anybody. Can I just sit on the stoop and not worry
You just
about?
want to be like Jesus and
Yeah,
go away from
yeah,
him.
go away. Yeah. Just leave me alone. Can you just leave me alone, right? And so, I was sitting out there, and all of a sudden, here comes Andy Mangiacapri. Pastor, you need to come right now. You got to come right now. And I'm like, leave me alone, please. Yeah, so I jump up and I go running inside, and there were these two young guys. There was a woman on the ground. She was physically manifesting demonic. She was twisted up, her eyes rolled back in her head, foaming at the mouth. I mean, it was a full-blown demonic thing. And they were up, one was up on the chair, yelling, screaming. I love this form of deliverance. You get up and you think that if you scream loud enough, you're scared of demons. Right? Right. So he was up in his chair, elevated over this poor woman, like he was in the position of authority. And he was like, and I walk in, the other guy was down on his hands and knees, yelling in her face. And I kind of walk in, I look around. I said, whoa, stop, what y'all doing? What in the world? Stop. Who are you to tell me to stop?
That's not a good question.
Stop, right? Stop. They got really defiant, really upset with me, right? And they go, we're trying to deliver this woman from this demon. I said, no, you're not. You're not doing anything but making the demon stronger. He's laughing at you.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean? We got this deliverance. I said, no, you don't. You got a screaming ministry. That's all you do. You just scream. You're not delivering anybody. It's just screaming at people. I really wanted to ask him, so what's the success rate of your ministry? I decided not to go there. Right? And so we finally got to settle down, and I got down on my hands and knees, and I grabbed this woman up just as tight as I could grab her. Just, right? And I didn't say a word. I just had her. I'm just sitting there on the ground. Just hugging her up as tight as I can get. Foaming at the mouth, all that stuff all over me. I'm just holding it. Didn't say a word. But then they got mad at me. They start yelling at me. Are you just condoning her and said blah blah blah? And I just kept holding her. I didn't react to anything.
You cast the demons out of them?
No. Yeah. Right. That's right. Exactly right. Right. I just kept holding. Just kept holding her. she would thrash and foam and gurgle and all that other stuff. And then finally stopped. Her head spun around and she looked me in the face. And I heard the spirit in her said, we have no defense of her love. And immediately she went limp, just right then. We led her to the Lord. She got filled with the Spirit of God. Right. And so it all boiled down to you don't fight with what you see. Right. And so we want to approach deliverance ministry. We want to approach spiritual warfare. We want to approach any ministry by what we see with our eyes. And so we think here's this woman demonically manifesting. Well, I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna yell and scream and holler. We're gonna
Loves the attention.
yeah, exactly.
Loves the attention.
Yeah, loves the attention. Right.
But that's even with people that, not just demonic people, but people that physically attack you,
Any people.
verbally attack
Yes,
you, physically
yes,
attack you.
Yes. Yep.
We tend to have the same response sometimes. If, like you said, we act like a 2-year-old
Yep. We
and
do.
react the way they are.
So it really becomes a real quest to understand what Hebrews 5:14 says. They have been adequately trained by what they've experienced to emerge with understanding of the difference between what is truly excellent and what is evil and harmful. So I'm trying to get you there. I'm trying to train you there. I'm trying to train you to get you to the point where you really begin then to see and understand. You have an advantage. I'm telling you right now, you have a tremendous advantage over anything in this world. And it's the fact that you should be, right, in air quotes, should be one with him, full of the plurality, overflowing with Holy Spirit, with the mind of Christ, and the glory of heaven in you. I can keep going on and on and on, right? I mean, really, that's your advantage. I mean, that's who you are. That's your advantage on this earth. And I'll take it one step further, because we hear the narrative. Hey, guess what, guys? You be just like him, as he is now on the earth. And what it says? All right, let me ask you a question. Just a simple question. How is he now? How is he now?
Seated in heavenly places.
Seated in heavenly places. Matter of fact, that's what we're told we are. Right? How is he now? Righteous, holy, pure, sitting. What's he doing? Sitting,
Resting.
ruling, resting,
All authority.
all authority,
At the right hand of God.
right hand of God. Excuse me? He's not worried one bit at all. Right? As a matter of fact, we can put our feet up on the footstool that God's making out of our enemies. Isn't that what it says? Right? So how else is it? And he's all those things, yes, but how else is it? Full of glory,
Loving,
loving,
forgiving.
Donna says Victoria at rest.
victorious, at rest, power. You guys are getting there. What else is he? These are all good words, but what else is he?
Omnipotent, omnipresent. No,
All the above? Is he transfigured?
Mhm.
You got it. You got it, didn't you? Is he transfigured?
Mhm.
Be as he is now on this earth. So are you. Challenges start acting like it. See, we don't act like that. That's a challenge. It's a challenge. I get it. It's a huge challenge. Right? And not only is it a challenge to act like that, right? Go back to the transfiguration, right? What a cool event. Could you imagine being one of the guys that got to go on that trip, right? Right. And so, Peter and John are there, poor Pete. Man, my heart, I'm gonna hug Pete when I get about it. After about 1,000 years laying down on my face before God, I'm gonna go find Pete, hug him. Right? And so they're there, Mount of Transfiguration. You see, but here's what happens. So you got to understand something about the Mount of Transfiguration that I don't think we fully grasp. Nothing happened to Jesus. Their eyes were open to see him as he was.
We are, I open to see who we are.
Yes.
Their eyes were open to see him as he already was. And not only that, guess who was there? Who else was there? Mo and so what is Moses ran completely in the law and the prophets? Everybody in this room should be able to prophesy. Every bit of the law has been fulfilled in Christ in you. That's all done. It's all there. It's all finished. It's all in you. I'm telling you, you're pretty cool. I'm telling you right now, you come to that first year class, you've been in first year class, right? You really don't understand who you are, right? We talk about going down the steps and the door. We talk about the mirror, and we talk about the box and our treasure box and all those things that we talk about. We really don't know who we are. We think we know who we are. We think we understand it. But when you start putting all these things together, right, Susan? I mean, you've been through that class. When you start connecting all these dots and you begin to, you're really pretty cool. Not only are you pretty cool, you're pretty darn powerful.
That's right.
Not only are you pretty darn powerful, you're pretty uncommon on this earth.
Ooh, that's what Paul said, yeah.
Right? And yet we just kind of stumble and bumble around in the dark. Why? Because we forget who we are. We live in the fog. Right? We live in the fog of the world. What the world tells us to do, and you guys have heard me say it 63 billion times. Some of you have been around a long time, have heard me say it a lot, right? That if you don't know who you are, the world is more than happy to tell you who you need to be, right? I mean, the world will tell you. The world will be more than happy to tell you who you need to be if you don't know who you are, right? And so you really are an incredibly designed individual that comes to the power of redemption and becomes everything he intended you're designed to be, which is really pretty cool. And yet he loves me not. So we're blind because of the corrupted perspective of his dominion. And we live with a measure of unfulfilled promise, potential. All right? You know what we do? I mean, listen, I got news for you. I mean, I don't go well in Pentecostal circles, but I got news for you. In a lot of the church world, and even in a lot of the Pentecostal circles, this corrupted perspective of his dominion, we still think our adversary has a lot of power. Am I right or wrong? Right? I mean, right? Am I right or wrong?
It's almost like we're celebrating.
Don't we? Oh, the devil's been chasing me all week long, just beating me up. And we give it to him.
Yeah, he only has the power. that
We give him, right? That's it. I'll never forget, we get ready for class one day, I was working, get prepared, somebody comes running up, they're like this. They're evil. Spirit of evil. Oh. Walked up to me and said, "What's wrong with you?" The devil's been chasing me all week. It's just been a bad week. He's just been beating me up. I'm sitting there looking like, I'm just listening, right? Person looking at me goes, "You okay?" I said, "No, not really." "Well, why don't you care?" I said, "What'd you pick your foot up for? Where is he? What does the narrative say?" Where is
Under our
it?
feet.
What'd you pick your foot up for? Boy, bring it just for me.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so what'd you pick your foot up for? I mean, if you, listen, don't pick your foot up. If he's on your foot, don't let him out from under your foot, right? And as a matter of fact, listen, he can't chase me. You know why he can't chase me? What's behind me?
Mercy.
Goodness.
And mercy.
It's a reward, too.
All the days of our life.
So how can he be back there?
Isaiah says he's our rear guard.
Yeah.
So how can he be, what's he doing?
Yeah.
He's our rear guard.
I'm telling you, that's this distorted and corrupt perspective of his dominion,
Mhm.
the power of the cross. We don't fully understand the power of the cross and what the cross did. When he said it was finished, it was done. It's done. He has nothing left to him. And so because of that, because we don't understand that, we really live with just a measure. And we've got so much unfulfilled potential out there simply because we don't understand our authority. We don't understand who we are, and we don't walk in the full measure of our identity in Christ. Yes, it's in Christ. I get it. It's in Christ. But you've got to understand it's in Christ, and you're in him and he's in you.
Mhm.
Okay. So blaming lack, right? And then what we do? Blaming lack. We blame lack. Fuels procrastination. You ever wondered why you procrastinate? You're blaming lack. I don't have. I can't. I gotta wait till this. Right? All you're doing, you're blaming lack and you're procrastinating because you think you need something else. And you don't need a thing.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, Pete tells me that everything, matter of fact, he says every spiritual blessing in heaven, that's a whole lot, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right, that's a whole lot. Every spiritual blessing in heaven, it's coming from a good place too.
Mhm.
Because we talk a lot about heaven in the first year, what heaven is. Every spiritual blessing in heaven, every spiritual blessing has been lavished upon you. So when we start talking and blaming lack, well, I can't do it because I don't have something, right? You procrastinate because you don't really, because of this.
Mhm.
And so you procrastinate.
To me, it's like I get the image of, you're mad about everything else, but you never even planted anything.
That's correct. Where's my harvest? And you
Yeah,
haven't put
you never
anything in the
planted
ground.
nothing.
Right, haven't put anything in the ground. So, and then procrastination then keeps us immature and always wanting,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Move your feet, right? Oh, incoming.
Should've worn a skid to it.
That's right, incoming, boom, right? But see what happens though? Because procrastination will prevent you from moving forward.
Mhm.
Procrastination will keep you from growing. Well, I need something else. Well, I'm just not quite there yet. I haven't made it yet. I haven't arrived yet.
But it's also not finishing what you started.
Correct. That happens.
Getting to like where
Mm.
that seed falls on
Yeah.
that soil, you only get to a certain point and then you know where you're going.
And you stop, right?
Mhm.
And so immaturity sets in. So how in the world then can I be, 60 years old, still be so immature? Well, because you procrastinated. You didn't allow the process of maturity to work. Right? And that sometimes that's a difficult process, that process of maturity, of working through these issues, because now if you're going to work through those issues, you got to have the courage enough to say, I have the issue.
Mhm. Yeah.
And a lot of the times, the reason we don't mature is because we don't have the courage to admit we have the issue.
That's true.
There.
When it seems like, so when we start blaming lack, and that word lack is starts to kind of define, I think, what happened in the garden when Adam said we were naked.
I was lacking.
Lack. So it's just, so,
And God never confirmed the fact he was naked, by the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, he just said who told you.
As a matter of fact, God said, who told you that crazy story? Right? It's in Genesis. Don't look at me like that. You guys have read Genesis, right?
It's in there.
It's right there, right? God came the very next morning. See, what blows me away about that story is, we got to understand Psalm 139 says that he's already in our tomorrow. So God is already in our tomorrow. So whatever day the banana rebellion occurred on, right? Right? It could have been Wednesday. I don't know, right? Could have been Wednesday. Well, on Tuesday, before the banana rebellion on Wednesday, God was already in there Wednesday and knew it was going to happen.
Yep.
We still came.
But he still came the next morning the same way that he had Monday, Tuesday, every other morning. And he still asked, where are you? Adam, where are you? Adam said, oh no, the mind is in the woods. Why? I'm naked. Who said that? It's right there in the book.
Yep.
Is that a good Baptist look at the watch?
No. Just, no.
Oh, I'm just joking.
It's just, what you call it? Habit.
Habit, gotcha. I can't believe it's 8:12.
No.
Right, so you see how this works. So we got to see that we can't blame lack. You got what you need. Matter of fact, what is Psalm 23? How does Psalm 23 start?
Which means I shall not lack.
I shall not lack. I've got everything. And then we think there's something else. We're lacking something, and we got to do something to fulfill the lack. No, you don't. You just got to step in the promise that you got everything and allow the process, right, to move forward. You've got to keep moving forward. You've got to do the work. You got to do the heavy lift. Listen, the process of maturity, like, it doesn't just happen because you get born again. There are a lot of born again, spirit-filled believers who have been in this thing for a long time, who are as immature as the 2-year-old reaction they give when you get punched in the face. I'm just telling you. And they come in this class and they get really mad at me because I tell them that. I say, you're immature because this is going on. They get really mad at me, right? Because I'm putting the responsibility of their maturity on them. Oh, it's the woohoo. No, it's not the woohoo. The woohoo.
Well, you've seen all that in the past year and a half since everything's happened.
Oh my God.
I mean, and how many people have started, Christians fighting against other Christians about this or that, and people have left the church. And
God speaks to anyone who's prepared to take the risk and be creative. Hey, you want to take the risk? You want to be creative? Go speak. Hey, go. Okay. Now, I got a bone to pick with Abe too. After I hug Pete, I'm going to go find Abe. I want to know why he took Lot. Come on. What'd you take Lot for?
he just caused them trouble.
Right.
Well,
I
he
mean,
ended up losing everything and living in Sodom. He lost everything.
everything.
Why was he living in Sodom?
Good point. Because he took Lot. He shouldn't have taken
It
Lot.
was his idea, not God's.
Correct.
Yeah.
You read it best. Right?
So Henry Lot would be a picture of the lack of discernment.
Absolutely.
In this situation.
God said clearly, Abe, go, take just your family, leave everything behind. Lot was not part of his immediate family.
So that's when you kind of process and you find the discernment of, okay, who's my family? I mean, it's just kind of this discernment requires processing.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. You got to think about it. Yeah. I mean, you get God, do I take Lot?
But then you said, you hear what he says, so go to the word. I guess I'm hung up on discernment. So then back to the last slide, it talked about understanding if something's truly evil or excellent, but then you're not judging.
No.
Like, so.
Because I'm
judging and
listening to his
discernment are-
voice. I'm not judging it. I'm listening to what he says. And because of evil, it's evil. Right?
Still what he says.
Absolutely.
Just go there.
Everything is what he said. And so it was clear when Abe was called, God spoke to Abe and said, take everything, just remain family.
So you can take the risk and you can hear and you can jump, but then
Yep.
also there's a place to discern
every time, every decision.
And, just thinking this popped in my head here. The thing about not being exact with God's will, God will let you walk out your decision.
Yes, he will.
But then we blame
Him for it.
him for it. But
Correct.
he'll just let you walk it
Yes, he
out.
will.
Along with blessing you because of what you were obedient with, but you're gonna walk out your decision.
That's correct. As I say in the first year class, repeatedly, you guys heard me say this, God will not compete against your will.
Mhm.
And I think that the tendency, I always done it so many times, like Abraham, we'll go out on the big thing and do it, but the little details, we start to operate in the soul.
Don't
We
we?
start to go with it's not the big maybe, it's the little stuff that'll take us out.
And then the wisest man in the world said that. What did he say? It's the little foxes. That's it's a little thing.
And a little leaven of leaven.
Little leaven, right? And so how about this one? So religion undermines the creativity of the spirit, offering nothing more than a repetition of what has previously been successful.
That's good.
So it's just a circle.
Just that.
It's a circle.
It's almost
That's
like
the
a
difference
hoax
between cloning and birthing and creating in the womb. without
Correct.
life.
That's correct. Yeah. And so, hey, look, I mean, bush didn't burn up, right?
Mhm.
So there were no ashes. So what if Moses, he had his first encounter with a burning bush? He knew what he was supposed to do, but he procrastinated because he was waiting for the next burning bush.
Just get confirmation.
The third confirmation, right?
That's
Third
the moment to get it
confirmation.
notarized.
That's right, exactly, right?
It's like going to the DMV.
So what if he was waiting for the next burning bush?
Mhm.
See, and so that's what religion does. Religion puts us in this never-ending cycle of just repeating what's already happened.
Mhm.
Right? And so we go, oh, what is this street? Really deep. Listen, I stood there at the sign. I went, right? Everybody, you gotta go to Jesus Street. You gotta go stand by the sign. You gotta go down. Okay, I went. I went down there. I stood right. I took a picture of the sign. I stood right at the sign. Dead as 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't a residual notion of the Spirit of God at all there. And I'm standing there looking at the sign, I'm looking around, and God said, what are you looking for? I'm looking for Azusa Street, right? You know what we do? Right? I'm looking for Azusa Street. And he said, you already have it. What are you looking for? You already got it. And that's what happens to us. We have an experience. You've got the experience, it's already there, but religion's going to codify the experience, and everything now has to happen out of that same type of experience. Over and over.
It is what it does.
Exactly. And so that's why I love New Day so much, is because I'm telling you, from 5 seconds to 5 seconds, it's not the same thing. Right?
But that's
But-
proof that it's kingdom, because the kingdom's always moving forward.
Always.
It's not that
Always.
repetition is the
Yes.
opposite of that.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And so everything's already been accomplished when Azusa was already then accomplished in the kingdom, so you have that too. That's why Jesus did it and more, because everything from then on has been accomplished too. So we carry Azusa Street in us, and every time the kingdom moves forward, then we're also carrying that.
All the time, yeah. All right, so that's why you'll hear me say in the first year class, right, was Acts chapter 2 the fulfillment of Joel's prophecy. What did Joel prophesy? I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh. Right, and what he said? Joel prophesied that. Is Acts chapter 2 the fulfillment of that?
No, it was the beginning.
Was it the fulfillment of the prophecy?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the fulfillment of the prophecy, but it was the beginning of an outpouring
Mhm.
that was never supposed to stop.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay. Anyway.
Amen.
So don't allow your encounter, right? That's what we're talking about. To become a constant reminder of your past victory and an effort to keep the burning bush.
Mhm.
Right? You know what we do? Now we have this great, powerful encounter. We step and I gotta keep that bush burning. I can't let that bush get burned. Every day, that's my encounter. My encounter is bush, or whatever the encounter is. And so we stay there. And so what happens to a lot of us, now get your rocks out so you can stone me really quick. I'm running out of time, right? So you can stone me. You got 9 minutes to raise me from the dead after you stone me. Because here's what happens, right? What we do in the body of Christ is there's such an encounter typically when we're saved that we stay right there. We stay right there in our salvation experience and we don't grow beyond it because we keep trying to keep that alive. And what did the writer of the book of Hebrews say? I mean, don't blame that on me. Blame the writer of the book of Hebrews. The writer of the book of Hebrews says, hey guys, please, can we go on a little bit? And what's the first thing mentioned in the can we go on beyond? Salvation. Salvation is critically important. You don't get to this point. That's the door. You got to walk through the door to get here. Right? You got to do that, but don't stay there. And so what we've done is we stayed right there. Right? We stayed right here. And man, it was sometimes that is a really powerful encounter for us is our salvation experience, and we camp right there. And we never grow and mature beyond our salvation.
That goes back to procrastination.
Yes, it does.
That makes some churches sound like a daycare.
Oh, doesn't it though? You think? Yes.
But it's comfortable for some people to stay in that church where you don't have to go past salvation.
Oh, exactly.
Because then you get expected to grow, and
Oh.
nobody wants to do that.
Nobody wants to mature, right?
Or you get a
Right,
title.
because remember, if you keep following that scripture out, it says, can we go on beyond these things, these first principles?
And it requires work.
A lot of work. Can we go on? And then it says, so that we can get off the milk and really eat a good meal. Right? I mean, what it says. So that's what happens to us. So let your testimony point to the power of Jesus, not to all the moment.
That's good.
See, that's what ends up happening. We point to the all of the moment, not to him. And that keeps us in the all of the moment. Listen, my salvation experience was incredible. I loved it. I mean, the only reason I'm here is because of that. If it wouldn't be for that, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for that, I would have married my beautiful wife. Right? But all of this is tied to that experience. But I also know that I had to move beyond that experience to mature and grow in everything that he had for me. The challenge is, and it doesn't have to be that. You may have had a powerful encounter outside of that, and you're camped there, and you're waiting for that next encounter. It comes, but it's not like that. So you disregard the encounter because it didn't happen like that. And so then you don't move, right? So the word of God says that we are sustained by the proceeding word out of the mouth of God, right? So there's a proceeding word that comes. We cannot eat or store old manna, correct? Right? I mean, the narrative says it got worms in it, right? The next day it's got worms in it. It's not very good. And so what we're trying to do, we're trying to eat wormy manna, right? Instead of the next word. So we camp out, we hoard that manna, right? And that's why God said, you can't store it, you can't keep it, right? Because the next day, I'm going to give you something new. Jesus, in the greatest prophetic declaration in the word of God, said, you're going to live daily on the bread, right? The manna, the bread of life. So every day there is a preceding word, and we've got to grow through that preceding word. But what we do is we camp out. We have this experience and we stay there. We stay stuck in that experience. So don't attempt to revive the bush or gather around its ashes. Follow his voice. You got to hear. The sermon is here. Growth is here. Acting on what he says is here. You see it. Right? Jesus said, look, I get it, but I'm not doing anything but what I see. I got to see Dad do it. I got to see it, and I got to hear his voice to say it. And so we get in trouble. We might even see it, but then we put our words to it. Right? You can't put your words to it. You got to put his words to it. And that really messes up sometimes because we'll see the answer and then we'll put our words in it. Instead of saying, okay, I see it. Now, God, let me hear how do I frame the narrative and what I've seen. Right? So religion starves the imagination. Thank you. Gary's listening to. Right? So religion starves the imagination. I believe that our imagination is born again and sanctified when we step through the cross, and it's a very powerful thing. Adam had a very powerful imagination. I don't know about you, but I took biology in college, and genus and phylum and species. I'm like, okay, cat is there. 53 different kinds of cats, right? Or ants, or grasshoppers, or flowers, and you do realize that Adam sat there, and every time God brought a clay figure to him and said, "What is that?" And he went, "Ant," and it became an ant.
Quite an imagination.
That's quite an imagination. Right? And so we got to understand how powerful our imagination is if our imagination is brought under the Lordship of Christ. Because your mind, will, and emotions, your imagination is in your mind. And if we understand, go back to that slide we saw where our heart is our soul and our spirit together, right? If our imagination is in our mind and it is controlled, it is infused into the Spirit of God, your imagination is a very powerful tool, very powerful. I've heard testimonies of people who, in a dream, right, they are open vision. They saw something. They saw the guy who invented the compound bow. I've heard this guy's testimony, and he was in a meeting, and all of a sudden he saw a blueprint. He just saw a blueprint of the compound bow, and he went in the shop and he created the compound bow out of what he saw. Now we go, oh wow, that's pretty cool. Well, I don't know about you, but Moses, when he designed the tabernacle, did he do the same thing? And we go, wow, that's pretty cool with Moses. But then we start talking about the creating the compound bow. You know what we do? How about Noah and the ark? I mean, we got examples all through the Word of God about people using their imagination. God speaks, they use their imagination, they see it, right? And then they execute what they see based on what the Word of God is saying or what God is saying to them. You got to hear his voice, right? So your imagination is really powerful. Use it. Don't be afraid of it. The imagination. Yeah, I get it. It can get out there a little bit. I understand that. But you know what? I'd rather you be free in your imagination than let religion stifle your imagination and starve, right, your faith. Because what it does, when your imagination is stifled, it's starved, it stifles your faith. Because what is faith? The evidence? Unseen. If it's unseen, where do you first see it?
In your
In the
imagination.
Spirit, through your imagination. Yeah. And then what happens is your faith then becomes anchored to the lesser because you starve your imagination and you ground your faith in what you see because it's tangible. Make sense?
Yeah.
What do you see?
Manifestation of the power.
What do you see? What do you see? What do you see?
I have every good and perfect gift from above.
Oh, good. What do you see?
Just expanding opportunities in our life.
What do you see?
Me.
Good. Ring the bell. I love that one. What do you see?
I see in a hard time.
Good. What do you see?
Like another vision. I see person standing in a field and it's so fresh that it's like the whole bunch of bodies are almost like they're deceased. families, campfires still burning, the fact it's cold and that you can see the heat rising off the bodies, so recent. And the person says, ah, it's just too late. And God is saying, no, you're looking at your mind. I need you to see what I'm showing you, what could happen, but
Come
now
on.
you can change it.
Yeah, way to go.
And so,
New kidneys for my friend.
There you go. What is Donna?
She's writing it.
Okay, what'd you say?
Endless possibilities.
mm.
What do you see, Lois Lane?
Transfigured.
Only